In this episode of Raddest Rides in 80s Action Figures, we take a look at a bear's vehicle of choice. A vehicle that helped pioneers explore an alien planet. We take a look at a knockoff toy that could give Masters of the Universe a run for its money. And many more. So, stick around. Dorks and Dorkettes, and welcome to Nostalgia Syndrome. My name is Rob, and in this episode, we'll be talking about more of the raddest rides in 80s action figures. Now, before we get started, let me just say that using the term knockoff in the intro crushes me. If you've watched this channel, you know that I don't like using the term knockoff or rip-off or anything like that. Because a lot of the toys that came out in the 80s just kind of borrowed or took inspiration from pre-existing toy lines. But they brought a heck of a lot of imagination with them to create a new story with new worlds and new characters. And I really appreciate that, and at the end of the day, it's still awesome. They were awesome toys. Now, I'm not talking about some of the toys that would remold popular figures, cobble them together as in new characters, and try to sell them. No. We're just talking about toy companies that would take a popular body style or design and kind of make it their own. Like I said, borrowing it. Anyway, let's not get weighed down by the semantics of my definition of borrowed toys. But if you have not seen this series before, let me give you a quick rundown of a couple rules. The rules are, the vehicles that we talk about must accommodate an action figure within it. Either in a cockpit, hanging off the side, something that is made for the scale of the toy. And also, we will not be covering vehicle-based toy lines. These are only action figure toy lines that had, of course, sold separately vehicles, in most cases. Those awesome vehicle-based toy lines will be covered one day, I assure you. But until then, let's get to number one. Now, this vehicle comes from a toy line that I talked about last week. It was a toy line that I wish I had when I was a kid. It comes from Kenner's Care Bear line, specifically the posable action figures that were released in 1984. The vehicle is the Cloudmobile. This cute little Cloud convertible was big enough to hold 3 of the posable Care Bear action figures. It also came with a picnic basket, an umbrella, and a little blanket for when the Care Bears wanted to get away from the hustle and bustle of the Cloud City and enjoy the Cloud Country for the afternoon. I don't know, you got me. Either way, like I stated in the Toys I Wish I Had When I Was a Kid episode, I wanted the Grumpy Bear posable action figure so bad. And I kind of wanted this Cloud car as well, because it was something that was featured prominently in the cartoon. And yes, I was a huge fan of the cartoon growing up. I mean, in 1984, I was 7. Yes, I was 7, and I still enjoyed the Care Bears. And I needed to get some Care Bear lovin' in my life. Wow, that sounded really bad. Anyway, just imagine you're playing G.I. Joe and a squadron of Cobra Rattlers drop out of the sky. They come zooming in with machine guns blazing, dropping bombs, and keeping the G.I. Joe forces at bay. There seems to be no hope in sight when all of a sudden, in the distance, you hear the faint cry of Ride of the Valkyries. Then, all of a sudden, a platoon of Cloudmobiles come zooming in. Care Bears staring the Cobra forces out of existence. Am I getting a little carried away? Anyway, this was just how I played growing up. Next comes from a toy line that a lot of people on the internet have deemed the silliest action figure line of the 1980s. That is Mantech, released by Remco in 1984. The vehicle is the Terrorizer. Now, to be honest, I didn't think there was anything wrong with Mantech. Honestly, I thought it was pretty cool. I always wanted one and never got one. Do I smell the toys I wish I had when I was a kid episode? Anyway, yeah, I had very limited exposure to them. I only knew like one dude that actually had one growing up, and I only got to play with it a handful of times. But I liked it. I mean, they're bigger scale, they're chunky, they're modular. I thought it was a great and imaginative toy line that you could add pieces to and just have a ton of fun with. Now, the Terrorizer shared in the modular idea that Remco had for the toy line. The box says it has 14 interchangeable pieces, and it had different things. I mean, you could make it a land vehicle because it came with wheels. You could make it an air vehicle, it came with wings. It came with a big bulbous gun thing on the front. I mean, honestly, from some of the pictures on the package, which I'll see if I'll have to find a nice higher resolution picture, but it kind of shows it even in an upright position. So I don't know if it had the capabilities of making it like a mech or something, or it was just another cool interchangeable idea that they had. Now, the whole modular idea that Remco had extended to the action figures, the vehicles, and even the play sets, which we've talked about in the past in Forgotten Play Sets episodes. And to me, as a kid that didn't have a lot of money to buy toys, the idea of a toy that you could constantly change and build on and make different and better and unique really appealed to me. Like I said, I never had one as a kid, but I really wanted one. The closest I've come nowadays to getting my hands on one is a Mantech comic that was put out by Archie Comics. Kind of weird, huh? I just love finding those 80s comics of failed toy lines, because unfortunately Mantech did fail. But Remco, you can't keep a good company down. They just came back with something else. And after that, something else. And after that, something else. And that's why Remco is personally one of my favorite toy lines from the 80s. Our next Raddest ride helped the pioneers explore the alien world of New Texas. The toy line was BraveStarr, released by Mattel in 1986. The vehicle is the Strata coach. Now, this vehicle, like the toy line itself, has a lot of promise. Unfortunately, not a lot of people saw that promise because the BraveStarr toy line kind of got bogged down by the hip and cool technology of the time of laser tag. Now, two of the figures you could get as a deluxe packaging of Tex Hex, the villain, and Marshall BraveStarr, the hero. They would come with backpacks that utilized this laser tag technology that you could shoot at each other and know when you hit your foe. Like I said in an earlier episode, I thought this technology really fit the toy line because it kind of got the quick draw aspect of a Wild West themed sci-fi cartoon and toy line. Anyway, the Strata coach had a lot going on. And please forgive me, but I will actually look at the back of the package online and read off all the awesome features it has because I don't want to miss a single thing. First things first, it has doors that open. Marshall BraveStarr can drive prisoner Tex Hex straight to the New Texas jail. It has strongbox for treasure storage, a movable tail fin, a pivoting laser cannon, a curium storage compartment, and I believe it came with little curium crystals, the little red things that you could put into the storage compartment. It also had, and this surprises me because it's something you don't see at first glance, it has the driver's seat slides down as radar console pivots up for command control piloting. so you can actually get off of the stagecoach inside and control it with a little, radar periscope thing. Also, if you squeeze the lever, the wheels flip up and the Strata coach is ready to fly. But I think the cherry on top is the Turbo Mule can be removed from the Strata coach and ridden around as a space scooter. You can't beat that. I mean, the Turbo Mule looks pretty awesome. I mean, this is a very well-made toy, like most of the BraveStarr toys. Unfortunately, it didn't take off, and I really think it should. I had the Tex Hex and BraveStarr figures, of course missing the laser backpack apparatuses, but I had the figures themselves, and they were great. I mean, they had great posability, they were big, chunky, and just really great toys. I mean, I can't say it any other way. I mean, they were simple, a great storyline of a sci-fi space western, and yeah, I really dug it. Unfortunately, it seemed to come and go pretty quick. Probably as quick as the Turbo Mule. Now, I was going to leave it at that punchline, but I think that would be a huge disservice, because let's take a look at the picture on the back of the box again. Tex Hex looks awfully comfortable for a dude being hauled off the prison. I mean, he looks like he should be drinking tea and just enjoying the ride. The next vehicle comes from the tiny PVC Army Men released by Mattel in 1986. That is Guts, and the vehicle is the Python. Now, the Python was a heavily armored, multi-terrain vehicle. It is kind of cheating because the figures, Guts, were just non-posable PVC figures. They were pretty cool, and especially when they released their ninjas and martial arts sets, I took notice. Now, for a time, the PVC action figure was all the rage. We'll talk about some of those other lines down the road, but the Guts figures were pretty cool. I mean, they were different styles of army men that from different branches of the military. Like I said, they even had ninjas thrown in because it's the 80s. You gotta have ninjas. Anyway, the Python, what it touts on the box was that there were many ways to customize the Python for however you wanted to play. From what I can see, the Python was a solid vehicle, and like I said, the non-posable figures you could just chuck in there, and it came with 3 different tops. Now, the tops were a canvas top, a multi-gun top, and a single turret top. Now, what really intrigues me about this is the things that you could attach to the sides. Of course, it looks like you have different missiles and such, but you also have like an inflatable Zodiac type boat that you can put to the side. To me, that just opens up a whole new way of playing with your Guts. Now, wow, that sounded weird. Anyway, I don't think this little Zodiac was probably seaworthy at all, but you could at least pretend that you were storming a beach, sneaking up for a secret night landing, what have you. This little feature, I think, propels a pretty typical toy into something even greater. Like I said, it's kind of like you could get 2 vehicles in one. You get the awesome Python vehicle as well as an awesome Zodiac on the side. Like I said, 2 vehicles in one. So, very cost effective, very cool. Also, in my fractured mind, it's very reminiscent of Sergeant Slaughter's Warthog from the G.I. Joe action figure line, just in a smaller scale. So, to me, that's even double the points. Now, our last rad ride comes from a borrowed toy line called Galaxy Fighters. Galaxy Fighters is a borrowed idea from Mattel's Masters of the Universe line. This was released by Madison in 1987. Now, I'm going to be straight with you right off the giddy up. I have no idea who Madison is, what other stuff they made, or anything like that. The Galaxy Fighters, I can't even say I have any knowledge of ever seeing these on the shelves. Then again, I was 11 at the time, so maybe it just wasn't in my sights. But from what I've seen doing research for episodes like this, Galaxy Fighters were pretty neat. I mean, they featured really interesting characters, with animal-type heads or fantasy-esque features, and I think a vehicle like this kind of gives Masters of the Universe's Battle Ram a run for its money. Now, I don't know the price differences, but I would assume the Battle Ram was cooler just for the simple fact that it had a launching missile. You could take the Sky Sled off of the Battle Ram, and it's just iconic as all get out. But the Galaxy Fighter's Demon Fighter kind of shares a lot of the same design stylings. They're both blue. They both have an animal figurehead. Now, the Galaxy Fighters had like an awesome dragon head that came off with like an extended neck. Kind of a snarling face that looks like it's kind of smiling, so maybe it's friendly. 2 sets of guns and these awesome little mace attachments. Now, from what I can see online, I don't think the mace balls came off or could be shot off or anything like that. I think it was just style. Now, the Demon Fighter had room for one character to sit and pilot it. But to be honest, this vehicle could offer a bunch of awesome features that I don't know, because even though the box art is pretty awesome, it doesn't offer much information. It does say it has a figure included, but the waters get kind of murky the more I looked into it. Now, the character that's featured on the box and kind of has a backstory attached to the Demon Rider is called Baltard. Now, he's this purple, ogre-looking dude, and the story is that he found the Demon Rider on their alien planet and kind of hid it away and would bring it out when the going would get tough. Just to summarize. Now, to me, I guess it's a no-brainer that Baltard would be included with the vehicle. But I've seen some mint versions where people pull out the plastic sleeve with the Demon Rider and it has different characters. So I don't know if it was just a random pick of who you would get. One of the pictures featured the character Iguana, which I think that's a pretty awesome figure. And it would be great to open up this awesome vehicle and get an awesome character like him with it. Again, since this is a borrowed toy line, I can't find much information. But I found a wiki of sorts that had information about different characters, vehicles, even the planet they're from. That blew my mind that someone actually took the time to make that, and that's really awesome. It's really awesome when a small, forgotten, and borrowed toy line such as Galaxy Fighters gets recognition like that, because someone has a really deep-seated case of nostalgia for it, and that's awesome. And in my book, that makes Galaxy Fighters even more awesome. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this episode. We took a look at a bunch of different action figure lines. Some well-known, some forgotten, some borrowed, and one that is too cute for its own good. You know who I'm talking about. That's right, Care Bears. I love Care Bears. Anyway, time to get serious. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Raddest Rides in 80s Action Figures. This is the 4th episode of the monthly series. If you enjoyed it, please take a look at the 3 previous episodes. And if you did enjoy this, please give me a thumbs up. If you got something to say, please leave a comment. I love reading them and I love getting back to everybody. And if you're new around here and you enjoyed this or any of my other episodes that YouTube is recommending down here, please hit subscribe. And if you hit that little bell icon, you will be notified whenever there's a new episode. So anyway, until next time, thanks for watching. Keep being rad and stay dorky!